Let's start off today with a pattern break. For decades, Africa has been introduced to the world like this: aid dependent, high risk, needs help. Now, allow me to give you a different image. Imagine walking into a global finance room during one of the worst funding climates on earth. Shrinking aid budgets, nervous donors, economic uncertainty everywhere. And Africa calmly walks in, raises 11 billion US dollars. Not as a plea, not as charity, but as investment. That just happened. And the most important part is Africa didn't just receive this money, Africa invested in itself. So we didn't ask for help, we showed up as co-investors. And remember, this channel exists for Africa First stories the Western media often ignores. We don't chase the headlines, we chase the truth behind them. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why this $11 billion moment marks a turning point for African power.
So the African Development Bank is an organization that consists of all 54 African member states and I believe a couple of dozen more non-African member states, altogether 80 member states who together look at financing development projects, creating a pool of knowledge to support projects and basically direct growth and economic development, particularly in Africa. The annual general meeting is a chance for all the member states to get together to take stock of progress made over the past year since the previous meeting, to revisit some of the foundational principles and goals of the bank. It was a really interesting debate. I think what really stood out for me was the need for coherent policy consistency between changing African governments, because one of the points that was raised was that despite goals being set, often they're not pursued when there is a change in government, and that really sets things back and makes it very difficult to actually make tangible real life change.
So this story comes from the African Development Fund, the concessional financing arm of the African Developmental Bank. In December 2025, country partners announced a record-breaking $11 billion commitment for the next 3 years, the largest replenishment in the fund's history. This happened while global aid budgets were shrinking, development finance was tightening, and many institutions were pulling back. And yet, the fund did not retreat. It expanded by 23% over the previous cycle. Somewhere, a Western budget analyst is whispering, wait, Africa raised money during a downturn? Yes, we are. So, people think this headline means that, donors gave Africa more aid. But the truth is, this was not traditional aid. ADF 17 represents a new developmental model built around investment, risk sharing, scale, leverage. And for the first time in history, African countries themselves have contributed meaningfully to their own concessional financing window. 23 African countries pledged $182.7 million, with 19 countries contributing for the first time, a five-fold increase over the previous cycle. So why does this matter for us in Africa? This is Africa shifting roles, not just beneficiary, not just recipients, but us as a co-investor. Africa didn't get funded, we showed up with capital. And that's the difference between being interviewed and being on the board. So let's talk about real world impact here. ADF 17 introduces a structural shift in concessional finance. The fund can now leverage its balance sheet, use market borrowing, and deploy hybrid capital, as well as absorb risk to crowd in private investors. So every $1 invested already unlocks $2.50 in co-financing, a ratio expected to grow under this model. And remember, in a previous Africa Power report, we explained why aid alone cannot industrialize a continent, right? So this moment proves that Africa is moving from aid logic to investment logic. And when Europe leverages capital, it's called innovation. When Africa does it, it's called unexpected. So ADF 17 will support 37 low income and fragile African countries, focusing on energy access, food systems, human capital, regional trade, and resilient infrastructure, right? That means real power grids, real food sources, real jobs, and real trade corridors. So this cycle anchors large-scale co-financing partnerships, including up to $800 million from BADEA and up to $2 billion from OPEC fund, from the OPEC fund. So this isn't scattered funding; it's coordinated and large scale. So we didn't connect donations; we assembled a syndicate here. And here's where the story gets even larger, right? ADF 17 signals a rise of a new African financial posture. It's confident, it's leveraged, it's self anchored, and globally respected. With African countries investing in our own concessional window, the narrative changes. Policy discipline improves, accountability increases, and long term planning becomes unavoidable. This builds directly onto what we covered last week about mindset and control. So once Africa believes it belongs at the table, it stops waiting to be invited. So next, this investment model quietly reduces IMF dependency across Africa. And so here's another emotional truth. This wasn't about money. It was about ownership. When Africa invests in itself, the world doesn't respond, it recalibrates, right? So, mashallah, that's your African insight for today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because I'm Mr. Empower TV. We don't chase the headlines, we chase the truth behind them. This is Mr. Empower, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.